All right, we're back again for another Other Ink Thursday, and I'm joined by Joe Wright, Chief Cat Herder over at Jackalope Games. And you could call Joe whatever you want. That's what they say. So, Joe, thank you so much for being on my show
Sure.
and doing this interview. And like, it's been a while since I talked to you, but I'm excited to talk to you about like stuff that I don't know about because we're going to cover your Christmas obsession and manufacturing stuff, which seems terrifying
Oh
to
Lord.
me.
Oh Lord.
And the
God.
pivot, the pivot is like another thing that I want to talk to you about. So
We have a
again,
lot. We have a lot to discuss.
we do.
And like I
Um,
said, you can call me whatever you want. I've been called worse. I guarantee it. So feel free. Feel free.
yeah. So I don't even know how to begin because I usually want to hear like how you became a gamer because I met you at a gaming event here in our city, and you played in my game of Never Going Home, and we did World War I fighty stuff. Um, but you were already like that's the kind of thing where like you don't accidentally walk into that bar at that time with a bag of dice. Like you were already a gamer. So like how did you become a gamer?
Well, I mean, I grew up playing like traditional board games as a kid. And then I'm trying to think.
Mousetrap, Shoots and Ladders,
Well, no, we didn't.
Sorry.
Okay, I didn't have Mousetrap, and that was one of my favorite games because it was like was it Rube Goldberg
Yeah, yeah.
contraption? And that was so I always had to go to someone else's house, like the neighborhood kids. Uh, and I was the baby of the family, and there was quite my mom remarried, so there was an age gap between like her first litter and then me. So, so like I don't know, I didn't get to. It was different experience. So then I think it was the first time I started venturing away from that with D&D, and there was one of the neighborhood kids. Not really sure what we played because I was probably really, really young, and the memory
Yeah,
changes
yeah.
get older. But I remember it being chaotic. I don't think we played by any rules that were supposed to be played, and I remember rolling a d6. Like we didn't roll the whole set of dice.
Yeah.
And then I changed schools, and I went to because my elementary school only went to fourth, and so then in fifth grade, I went to a new school and went to a book fair, and I saw White Plume Mountain cover for Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, and I was like, oh, what's this? There was like a manticore, which I didn't know what it was. It was just like a dude's face with like shooting spikes out of a lion's tail or something, and
That's a
I think it was
Manicore for sure.
yeah, I think it was a Jeff D illustration, who's one of my favorite OSR illustrators. Um, because he did like superheroes as well and stuff. And so I bought this book, and then I had no idea what it was. I was just like, oh. And then I realized, oh, you had to have the companions. So I got the basic set and the expert set, and then realized that there was, I guess I thought that was like what you started with, and then you went to advanced D&D. Now I realize they were kind of released at the same time. So I
Yeah.
did the progression from one to the other. And then that led into Palladium, Car Wars, Villains and Vigilantes, BattleTech, Marvel Universe, Champions,
Yeah.
Toon. I even ran a Toon game when I was 16. I mean, talk
Tune.
about the nerdiest of the nerds.
That's pretty extreme. You don't
Yes.
have to reveal your age, but like relative to
54.
like the
I'm sorry, 49. I'm forever 49.
Forever 49, love it. So when you were 16, like how does that relate to like Roger Rabbit, right? Roger Rabbit comes out in
No, I when I was 16, that would have been
87 or something.
87. Yeah. So was Roger, I guess Roger Rabbit, was he 88? He was around somewhere around
Yeah,
there?
yeah.
Okay. So yeah, well, see, the thing is, I wanted to be an animator when I was young. Like I used to always in my textbooks, I would
Hmm.
make flip books
Yeah, yeah.
instead of paying attention in school. Like I was
Right.
like making crude animations, like stick figures, nothing fancy. Like
I'm
we're talking sixth grade
I'm
illustrations,
shocked to hear that you were doodling instead of paying attention in class. I'm
right, right,
shocked.
right. Which kind of
Uh,
interesting because we would actually, guys, bring back all these weird memories. So I went to and from like fifth grade to a certain point, my parents shoved me in an all boys school. So I went to like middle school was all boys, and so we were the nerds, like we were the outcasts, the geeks, and the freaks. Because back then
mhm.
we didn't really have all these necessary categories like we do nowadays.
Yeah.
So like you were just like either a jock or you were smart or you were like the outcast. So we were the outcast group, and we all played these role playing games. And at a certain point, you would be allowed to have freedom to walk around the school. They would be like, well, maybe they'll go do a sport activity or go to the library or do homework or something. Well, us outcasts, we would either like break into the theater and climb on the catwalks, or climb in this like the scaffolding or the rate or like the air conditioning units or the roof. Like we would get have to dodge.
Uh-huh.
Like some of us would
Uh-huh.
get caught on the roof. Like we were that group. But we'd
Uh-huh.
also go and play a role playing game on the chalkboard. And since I could draw, we're talking like rudimentary levels, I was kind of the dungeon master, and I would draw everything and make a room, and we would do this role playing game with like a chalkboard.
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
mean,
it's like I don't know, it's what we did. And then we
that's
would on the weekends we'd play Car Wars or BattleTech or whatever.
yeah,
But like
yeah, yeah.
you couldn't really bring those books to school because then you were like, oh, it's the D&D nerds or whatever, or the
Right,
devil
right.
worshippers or whatever they wanted to label us. So
Sure. That's, I mean, so many things to say. Like one thing that I'm noticing is that like the miniatures was always part of it. Like I as a gamer have come to miniatures just the beginning of miniatures, but like only in the last few years, right? So like if you're playing Car Wars and BattleTech like from the beginning, like that's a strain we'll pick up on, I guess, in just a minute. But yeah, I like
well, back then they were the little cardboard chits.
mm,
Like BattleTech came with little punch outs, and Marvel had an RPG game, and they had
yeah,
little
that's true.
cardboard chits,
That's
and the Car Wars little chits. So we didn't really have miniatures. We were playing with like whatever they provided us.
okay. Okay. I mean, I definitely remember chits. Like I had that TSR Marvel game and like I remember that you had what one thing I remember like talking about weird memories that come back. Like definitely there was like a police car and then you turn it over on the backside and it was like an exploding van and so like whichever side of the chit you needed to put
Yeah.
on the map at that time, it was
Did the Hulk show up?
oh
Right.
yeah, with his, phase rip stupendous strength or whatever,
Face rip. Oh my god, face rip. Yes.
Uh, I was
Yes.
just lampooning the like for parsing reasons. For me, it's like the difference between super strength and phenomenal strength and unearthly strength and stupendous strength is like these are just stupid. Why didn't you just call them 40, 50, 60, 70? Which they did, but they consistently referred to them as stupendous and otherworldly and whatever, It's
Well, I
like,
mean, because I guess okay, my logic was, and because you had the Amazing Spider-Man, right?
oh, of
So
course, I know
something had.
why they did
Oh
it,
gosh,
but like
you just thought you
from
thought
a game
silly.
design point of view, I think it was bad game design.
Okay,
Like
good.
that's one where yeah, it's a licensed Marvel product. They've got to call it amazing and stupendous and spectacular, and they've got to, but like from a game, like my brain was like, I would rather have numbers, which mentioned Palladium. I played a bunch of Palladium games in high school. Not
Teenage
a,
Mutant Ninja Turtles. Didn't you play Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles?
so I never played it.
You just read it all. You just
It
read
was
all the
the
volumes.
No, not even that. It was
What?
so it's the
What?
bait that got me to meet Brandon. He was like, I have
Okay.
this game. Let's go make characters. And I'm like, yes, I watched the show. I want to make a character. And then so I started hanging out with Brandon, but we never actually made characters and played the game. Like we played riffs and we played other things. So like, yeah, I've never actually played TMNT. I've,
Oh, that's interesting. You just read
but
all
it,
the. Well, it's an interesting system to read, and it's really in depth, and the anthropomorphism's kind of fascinating.
oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I won't. I don't mind. This story's been told before, but like our first game from Brandon and I that we made is an anthro game because that's where we started. Like we're like, well, we gotta have an
So it's a tribute. It's a
in.
tribute.
Yeah, of course. It's definitely part of
Gotcha.
the. It's part of the. We say that it's like we grew up watching DuckTales and Tailspin and also TMNT and like all the other knockoffs like Terrible Thunder Lizards and what's the Biker Mice from Mars, all of those that were out there, like so of course you want to have a game, like of course like what does it matter that I'm a giant pig man and you're a cat spy? Like that's just great. Like there's nothing wrong with that.
It's just
Um
onion skinning or reskinning or whatever. Onion
yeah.
skinning, whatever it's called.
I reskidding, I don't know. But like it's just one more layer of narrative to be like to me where it's like, oh yeah, my like aviator pilot is an elephant, and like, does it make any sense that he can stuff himself into the ball turret of the gun of the Stratos Fortress or the B-17 analog that's in our game? It's like, no, it doesn't make any sense. But that's not the point. The point is that like, what that visual of like, oh, I'm the elephant. Time to go get in my cockpit for the gunnery, and you squat down inside, and like that's the comedy visual and or whatever. Um, anyway,
Did
TMNT.
you ever play Gamma World? They had like
No, I've not played Gamma
interesting.
World.
Have you ever read the rules?
I've listened to an actual play of Gamma World, so I have just a taste of like the bat shit that can happen there with but
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
not
yeah, it's pretty fatal. Like it's one of those like OSR type games where you could just get blasted away, or
yeah,
you could absorb the blast. Like you never know what your character build is. I think
yeah.
the character creation was pretty fascinating
Yeah,
in
I
the game world.
the
As far
actual
as
play that I listened to, we had like a hive mind floating brain thing and like it was yeah, wild characters. Um so we could reminisce for a while, but I want to move forward with the question. So like
okay,
was there did
just
you
let you know, there is a cat that is very
yeah,
curious about what's going on, and he cannot get close enough to me. So if there's any shenanigans that's not caused by me, it's him. So
yeah.
he
Well,
may join. Who knows?
yeah,
Just
if he
just a heads up.
joins then we
I hope
can
you're not allergic. I just hope you don't have any
I,
allergies.
I not as much as I used to be. It takes a while. I have to be at a cat house for quite some time before I get sniffly. Um, so did you experience a gap? Because like a lot of people like play when they're
Yeah.
in
Oh
high
yeah. Oh
school, and
yeah.
then
Oh
like
yeah.
there's
Oh yeah.
college, and then like, oh, I didn't
Oh
play
yeah.
for like 20 years, and then like I came back
Oh
to
yeah.
it.
Oh yeah. I was a gapper. I was a huge
Okay.
gapper. Well, okay. So let me give you a little bit of background. I was in one school where I was
Hmm.
considered like a weird nerd because I played all these games, and it was all male school and I didn't like it. So eventually, through all sorts of, whatever's high school stuff, my parents were like, okay, we got to get this kid out of here. They finally listened to me, and got transferred to a different school. And that school was, the best way to describe it was super intelligent, degenerate, just smart kids. And I was at the bottom of the ranking. Like there was the kid in the top of my class, he missed 2 questions on his SAT. I got about that many right. So I don't know what I was doing there, but somehow I barely made it through. And there it was okay to be this outcast.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of first generation kids from whose parents came from Thailand. So, and their parents were like doctors and whatnot. And they came over to the USA in like the 70s. So they would get all sorts of racism from these small towns, and they would get called slurs that weren't even related to like their ethnic background, just because they were Asian, right? So these kids, the parents would send these kids to this school, and that's where I ended up. And it was a bunch of like smart degenerates. So I really learned how not to get caught when you're doing stuff and you don't like, because you just, if you got caught at that school, it was 4 hours of labor on a Saturday morning, and I like to sleep past 12 noon. So I was like, I learned real quick how not to get caught.
That that is one of those things that like getting caught teaches you how not to get caught. Not it doesn't for so many it does not disincentivize the action. It teaches you better not getting caught skills.
Right. And I wasn't doing really bad things. I mean, I guess in hindsight, when you think back, yes, I mean, compared to our current society, like I smoked and drank, but so did everybody else, right? Or
Right.
most people did, but you shouldn't be doing that sort of stuff. But most of the stuff I did, I wasn't really doing, like I wasn't doing bad things. It's just I didn't like this hard, it was like a real hard structure, and I'm kind of a creature of chaos, so kind of
So
putting
did
a
you not
square peg.
have the gaming when you were there, or did
We
that
were
kind
too
of like
busy. No, we had too much homework. Like I
hmm,
couldn't draw. I had no time to draw. It was all this homework, 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 and the grading scale was super intense. So if you made 1 or 2 mistakes, you were at a 90. Like on a 500-word essay,
yeah,
you missed 2 commas. 2 commas. They put you at a 90. I'm like, oh my god, and I can't spell. Save my life. like, like it's not happening.
yeah. I'm
So
also terrible at spelling. Uh yeah, I just the number of times that I typed grabbage instead of garbage when I was
yep.
working on Garbage and Glory recently, it's like there's a lot of fixes like That's why you get an editor.
Crazy. Yes, yes,
Uh,
yes. So okay,
so
so
how did it
so
come
so,
back?
so
How did the gaming come back
well, so
into
okay,
your
so
life?
then after that, so I'm also a queer individual, and we're talking about the '80s. I hope you can't hear that. That's my other cat, the other delinquent cat. She decides to claw on something right now. Maybe it'll
I
sound
could
like
hear it, but
maybe
sounds like a cat.
right. I'm not doing my good job of herding because I'm paying attention to the computer right now. I should have fed him some wet food so they'd be asleep right now. Um,
Mm,
so okay, so I'm also queer, and it was the '80s, and had to be in the closet and that sort of stuff. So I told myself when I went to college, I was going to come out. It's like a fresh new start. I wouldn't have to worry about having friends and the rejection of those friends because it
mm,
would be like a new thing. So that was
right.
my whole strategy throughout high school was just survive and get out. And then once I got out of college, I mean, I was 18-year-old male presenting thing with a lot of testosterone. Role playing games were the last thing on my mind. So I went to Chicago for a good number of years and just went a little on the wild side, learned how to bartend, became a club kid, did all that kind of stuff, had a lot of wild times, and then came back to St. Louis and lived in St. Louis through the early 2000s and still didn't really play a little too many games. I got reintroduced to was it 3.5? I think it was 3.5 edition D&D.
About it was about then that would have been the current.
Yeah, I think it was three. I can't remember if it was Pathfinder or 3.5, but they're kind of the same thing. So I started playing that, and I was like, "Oh my god, I love this!" And then that got the creative juices flowing. But I was still like closeted about it. Like it was still like kind of keep it separate because it's kind of because of the stigma from the '80s. Like it
Right.
wasn't cool. Like Critical Role wasn't there. So
Well, of course not.
my friends are like, Dungeons and Dragons, like something like the church ladies do here in Kentucky, like with that nose, like bless your heart kind of thing. And so you still
Uh-huh.
had to kind of be in the closet about it. And I threw parties and I have a whole wild side that is not gaming related, so I'm going to keep that over there. But
Right. We're
I do a lot of other things besides roll dice. So
right.
I've
And and like I do maybe the sort of like the role play and the like party atmosphere and the like being in charge of like an event like a role-playing game event like I'm sure there's a lot of crossover skills there.
oh yeah,
You talked about bartending. Like
oh yeah,
I know
oh yeah.
multiple people who are game designers and bartenders or former bartenders, and there is sort of like a there's like a you pick up like all those skills, like those soft skills of like reading people and like sort of like when to like press on somebody to get more information and when not to. It's like I'm sure it's very similar. I imagine, right? Because I haven't
It is.
bartended, but like I
I would
imagine
say
there's a lot of
I think you're correct. There are a lot of skills that learned like in my 20s and 30s and 40s that I had no idea would apply to coming back and being like a dungeon master because that's
right,
what I do now to make money is I'm a dungeon master and I treat my games the same way I would treat a bar full of regulars on a Friday night coming in
mm,
for appetizers and drinks at the restaurant, one of the restaurants I worked at in St.
yeah,
Louis. Like I drew a crowd. There was no crowd when I showed up at this bar, and that's how you make money. So I developed a crowd, right?
right,
So I take that concept and I move that to my Friday night role playing games with the whole intent. Like, who cares about the dragon? Who cares about what your backstory is or whatever? I mean, we all care about that stuff. Don't get me
right,
wrong, but that is secondary. The primary point is to show people a good time,
yeah,
which
yeah,
is the same thing as being a certain kind of bartender, right?
yeah,
Burn and turn bartender, you're not really showing a good time. But if someone's coming to sit at your bar and have a meal and some drinks with their partner, you have to show them a good time on some level. Whatever that good time is subjective, right?
right. You're kind of responsible for creating a vibe in some respects.
Yep.
Um, yeah. So you
It's like you're host. It's like you're hosting this like you're like creating a vibe. You're hosting the vibe,
yeah,
right? That's a great way to put it. It's the same thing when you run a game for 3 hours,
yeah.
right?
And yeah, totally. I get it. And that is sort of like, I don't know, it's that position of power, but it's also sort of like the collaborative thing and like, I don't know. And I do want to hear more about like how, the because I've never GM'd for money, right? So like I'm sure that changes that
Oh, it does.
expectation a little bit
It does.
about like what the how much fun are you quote unquote supposed to be giving how much of that work. I'm sure that you have expectations to meet about like, for that for people.
Well, don't wait. I would. Okay, so you say you don't GM for money, but you have a game that you promote that you
Well,
GM for, which
it's
brings you
true.
money. So in a roundabout way, you kind of are in a
Sure. I
way.
mean, that's
It's just
fair.
different.
That's fair.
It's different. It's a different style of paid DM.
Yeah. And I mean, I have found that there are as a publisher, I would rather spend my time not that I don't like to GM, but like I there are other people who can do it even better than I can. And so like, okay, great. You go be the face of the game to the
Right.
audience. And then
Right.
I'm going to stand back here and I'm going to have a meeting about the next game that we'll be
Right.
publishing because that's something you can't do. Thank you for doing that for the company and for the image and stuff like that. But like yeah, I found that I haven't had to level up in that respect because I've done it in a different way, I guess. I have people for that now, which is a whole different line of things. Um, I mean, I do want to hear all about the like how you build a reputation and like I think that's part
Oh,
of
oh my God. I don't
like
even
how do
know.
you maintain it
You're
and like
asking the
all of
wrong
those
person.
things. But like
Wrong guy.
before we get there, because that's like
I
the
can tell you
second.
what not to do. I can tell you what not to do.
Well,
Like I can really tell you what
I
not to do,
yeah,
but I
let's
don't know if I can tell you what to do because I'm not a marketer. I'm not a marketer.
let's save all of that for just a minute because that's sort
Okay.
of like your second or third or version
I have a
of like you in
funnels.
the industry. So
Yeah, I
like
have funnels.
what I want to ask before we get to the GMing stuff is I want to hear about War in Christmas Village because that's
Okay.
kind of like a big brand
Okay.
that you have done and it's still sort of like there's like a legacy of the War in Christmas Village and like it's still ongoing. It's not like it's over, but it's also sort of like a thing you've transitioned away from. And and we could get into all of that if you want, but like the thing that I think is so incredible about it is that through some like plan or mistake or something
Oh,
like that, you jumped right in to
insanity.
like
Insanity.
making these models for this game. And so like I want to hear not like in a like if you don't even I just want to hear about it. Like how did you go
Okay.
from like okay, so I'm getting back into 5e or not 5e, it's before 5e. Like I've been playing 3.5.
Okay.
Like this a lot. I need to make models of like zombie
This-
gingerbread men. Like there seems to be a gap in there that I want to hear about. How did you go from I've been playing Pathfinder and I like it to like I need to print
okay.
this tree end, like
Okay.
what's the
Well, okay, so remember how I said earlier when you're like, "Oh, I want to learn stuff like what you do," and I said, "Well, I can tell you what not to do." Like,
uh-huh,
okay,
uh-huh.
so that it all of your questions will be answered in the this is what not to do when launching a game
Hmm.
situation.
Yeah.
So, or miniatures. Originally there was no game. Like it was just I want to make a bunch of miniatures for people to use in other role-playing games or skirmish games like Blood Bowl or Frostgrave or Mordheim, the big ones, or your D&D holiday one shot, that
Right.
sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So
There's certainly a market for that kind of stuff. For sure.
yeah, there is, and I come like my our on my
Well,
mother's side.
so
But
many Kickstarters are like, here's a game, but like really what you're getting is a box with 300 miniatures in it, and they're all
yeah,
angels or whatever.
yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah. Well, okay, so I guess it all kind of ties into leaving St. Louis and moving to Kentucky and then ending up in Louisville and deciding I don't want to be a bartender anymore. And then like I told you earlier, I got sick, so I was in the hospital for over a week, and I came out, and my body was totally different. And I'm like, well, now I got to figure out what to do with my life. And I dropped out of college, so I'm kind of intelligent, but I dropped out of college. So that kind of leaves you nowhere to go, and I spent 30 some odd years in the service industry, which like I can't. I mean, I could fake it. I just chose not to fake it anymore. Like you get your
Yeah.
Karen in there. Like I have the skills to turn a Karen into an ally. I just it's a lot of work, and I just it's not what I want to do wanted to do anymore.
Right.
So I still have those skills though. Like it's kind of like you were talking about earlier, the game master situation. Um, so I got out and I was watching all these Kickstarters, and the Reaper Kickstarters were getting $1 million, and I'm like, oh my god, that would be awesome to design and get $1 million. I had no idea what that meant. Like I now I know the backside of that
Yeah.
$1 million Kickstarter, but at the time I was like, it's like winning the lottery. I was like, oh, I could retire forever. No, you can't. It's the gaming industry. So then I was like, at the time, Fox News was doing all their junk about war on Christmas, that kind of shenanigan. I
Mm.
think Starbucks at the time. I don't
Right.
really go to Starbucks, but I know Starbucks upset them
They
by
they
saying
they
happy
had
holidays.
red cups, right? The red cups
Something.
debacle from a few years ago,
Yeah, it was something to do
like
with the cup, and it didn't say
what
Christmas on it. It said Happy Holidays or whatever.
it didn't say anything on it because they that,
Oh,
that
is
was
that what
that
they're?
was the marketing thing
I
was
don't
that it
even
was
know what I don't even know what
so
they're mad
yeah,
about. I just have
it
this.
didn't say Merry Christmas on the cup. It was
Okay,
just a blank red cup. And then you were
what's
supposed to
wrong with that?
decorate it with like, hearts and snowmen and
Whatever.
whatever. Like whatever you wanted to put on your
Yeah,
cup, you could. But like, yeah, it didn't say Merry Christmas on it. It because so therefore it's War on Christmas. Yeah.
exactly. So, and then there it became a drama. And as
Hmm.
someone who has been like my whole life, I've been politicized, right? Like just being a
Sure.
queer individual, I'm used to get votes in an ugly way. It's been my whole life. My family votes Republican, right? So they've always voted against me. Um, I even have I had a lesbian aunt who was with their partner for 48 years, and they still vote against us. So trust me, they're not in my life anymore, but that's where I came from. So when I see all this Fox News stuff that's appearing, it's just BS propaganda. It's there to cause divisiveness. So, and I'm a bit of a clown. It's an understatement. So I thought, why not just pull a punk move
Mm.
and make an actual joke and satire out of this war on Christmas, and then bring in a grim dark aesthetic, which is something that I like. I like grim dark in games
Yeah.
and in my fairy tales. Like I like I love
Right.
Chinese romances because everyone dies. Like I love that kind of ending. So I brought a grim dark element into Christmas, and then that began because I knew nothing about any of this. Like I knew nothing. Like I was a bartender.
Right. Hey, but
So
like when you're talking
that
about
began the journey. I'm
when you're
sorry.
talking about grimdark Christmas, I mean, like it's a mimic, but it's a package. So it's a
Mm-hmm.
package that looks like a Christmas
It's a
wrapped
mimic. I
package
mean,
with like big teeth on it.
yeah,
And I
yeah.
mentioned the like zombie
Well, like here, I have
gingerbread people.
yeah.
Like it's
There's.
yeah, the
I'll do
gingerbread
like
gang.
let me do like a beauty influencer. Like if you want this
Hmm.
eyeshadow girl, put the hand behind it. But yeah, there's our little gingerbread
But
guys.
they,
Yeah, grim dark.
they're whatever. They're not zombies, but they're like
Well,
menacing, and they've got weapons and
we do have zombies. We have a horse zombie,
yeah.
and we have Christmas villager zombies,
Oh yeah, Jebediah and
and
Ebenezer are zombies.
we actually have a reindeer zombie too, but I don't have a picture of him.
Yeah.
So we do, I mean we do,
So it's
and
all it's the yeah, it's the it's it's oh, I forget the director's name. It flew out of my head. I had it, but
Tim
the
Burton. Tim
well,
Burton.
it's his name is on it, but he's the
I hope you're
producer,
saying
right?
Tim Burton. I'd be like,
I mean, Nightmare Before Christmas is what I was referencing, but
oh
it's
yeah, yeah,
it's
it's Tim
the
Burton.
Harry Selick. Henry Selick is the director. But anyway, the yeah, I mean, that's proven as a model, right? So you're like, great, I'll just do it, right?
I mean, like now you're talking like as if I thought about the project. Like it's a proven model. That it was just. I guess
Was
it's
it
kind of
really
my
just
aesthetic.
first thought, best thought, where you're just like, that'll be great, and then you just did
Well,
it?
okay, okay. So
Because
you're okay. So you wanted okay. So you asked about my process, and I mentioned I'm a bit of a clown. So I don't know how familiar you are to the tarot deck, but there's a card of the Fool, and if you
mm-hmm,
look at the picture of the Fool, he's sitting there tootling his little instrument. There's a dog barking him of danger as he steps off the cliff.
mm-hmm.
That's kind of my
That's your
patron.
if yeah, if you had a card in the deck, that's yours.
Well, I mean, we can't all be the empress as much as we want to. Some of us have to be the fool. So, like,
There you
that is
go. There you
how
go.
that's kind of the way I just do things. And
Hmm.
it's not the smartest, but whatever. I've learned to not go that route. I
Right.
guess. I think I've learned a little bit. Well, I also used to drink pretty heavily, and I don't do that anymore. There's
Maybe these
changes,
things go together.
changes.
Maybe these things go together.
I think they do. I think they do. Because when I used to pass out drunk every night. Like it was not just I'll have a drink. It was serious.
Mm,
So once I stopped abusing that substance, I had this clarity, and it was a complete world shift. Like friend groups, like even down to core people that I thought were ride or die. It's like no, the addiction was actually what we had in common.
mm.
So I mean, there's that. And then
Yeah.
this project was kind of in the middle of that, I guess,
So,
of all that change.
yeah, which it's sort of like which makes a lot of sense knowing more that then you transition into something else. It's sort of like it's emblematic of a time and a movement that, like you're doing something else now. But,
Well, the world changed. I mean,
well, true, true.
the world radically changed about 4 years ago,
Hmm.
right? Isn't that when
Right.
the
I
plague
mean,
came out? When was the plague-demic? 2020 or 2021? Kind of around there.
it's 2020 is when it was the thing. So we're like we're at 5 years, which is wild.
That's not very long.
Right.
Not
It
very
isn't.
long.
But it's also like 5 years it's a lot of time. It is a lot of time. It
Well,
can
I
be,
mean, once again, it's subjective. If you're in high
Sure,
school, that's a lot of time. If you're
sure.
4 years old, that's a lot of time. But if you're in your 50s, it's like a drop in the bucket. You're like,
Yeah.
oh, Matilda.
It happened yesterday in that
Yeah,
respect.
yeah.
Uh so tell me a little bit about like the actual mechanics of it. Like, did you make the files?
No,
You call up somebody from
I had to
you
find
just
it all.
searched on the internet, like
I had,
what are the factories, who can make injection molding,
yes,
what kind of files do I need? You get set up
yes,
with that person and then they tell you like
yes,
you need to send it to us in this format and you're like, what is that? And then you're doing
uh,
more web
yes,
searching and then
yes, all of it.
so this is the
With,
process.
and this is what I used a phone, a dirty, nasty iPhone. Not this one. I think a couple generations back, but everything was originally done on a phone, which is even more like ludicrous. When I look back, I'm like, you couldn't have just bought a laptop for yourself.
Right.
Like,
So, like, at some point, you must have decided, like, there must have been a point at which you were like, oh, wait, this is going to be way more work than I thought. I'm good. But then you kept going. So, like, again, I'm like, I don't want this to be accusatory but I'm like, there must have been some reason. What was the reason that kept you going once you got into it
I
and you were
don't,
like, oh, wait, this
I
is going to
don't
be way
know.
harder.
I
You
don't
went
know.
ahead, which is what I find
I
so
don't know.
incredible
I
about
guess
like what you've
I don't,
done.
I don't know. I don't know. It's hard to answer. I don't know. Passion, maybe. I don't know. Stubbornness.
Hmm.
Um, more shenanigans. Uh, I mean, I do get like, what is it? Is it called now cortisol rush? Is that what we're talking?
Mm.
Everyone's like chasing after the endorphin or whatever.
Uh,
Like when
I
someone
think
is it
cortisol is the
cortisol?
stress hormone
Okay,
that's
is it the bad
bad,
one?
and I
What's the
think
bad? What's the good one?
dopamine is
Dopamine. Okay, dopamine.
the good
Okay,
one.
so to put it on a chemical basis,
Mm.
because I don't know how else to put it, or joy or whatever you could express it as joy. When someone really geeks out on something
Mm.
that is in this one of these boxes that I made, and
Yeah.
posts the miniature painted in their game, or just because they really want to paint this, or they put it in their grandma's Christmas village as a prank. There's so much joy I get from that. Like
Yeah.
you can't really like because I'm doing like I'm being it's clownery in a way, but I'm not there.
You're
I'm
you're
kind of
you're just
like,
you're chief cat herder, right?
well,
Distributed the chicanery out into the universe, and
yes,
other people are now
yes,
acting on the
and
clown system that you set up, right?
they get it, and they get it. It's kind of like that frog or toad that lays an egg sack down by the river. It's that kind of thing. Like spew out all these things, and someone
And
then
then
it turns into a tadpole, and then look how pretty it is.
yeah, all the frogs in the pond next year are like, I did this. I did this.
And there's like, well, there's one that I made because I made one of the Kickstarters. I made a mistake. I promised the Kickstarters this one miniature but I miscalculated in my head how many would fit on the mold. Because I've never to this day, I still don't know how big the molds are. I can never get an answer. Um, I've tried for years. I've tried with multiple reps. I can't get a picture. I kind of got like a line drawing once of what they look like, but I presume they're about yay big or so. So basically, like this, the size of this box is kind of what I'm
Right.
guessing. And so on one of them, I promised an extra miniature, and I didn't have space for it, so I had to make a whole new mold, and that's how the cowboy riding a jackalope happened, which has nothing to do with anything. It's like there's no reason for that to be made other than to provoke a chuckle, a
Right.
smile, some
I mean,
irreverent wit. I mean, it's complete irreverent wit.
right. That's the one that's on display on my little shelf.
Oh, it's on display. Oh, that's awesome.
We have it's a jackalope is a thing that my wife and I we like the jackalopes. So it's one of the jackalopes. It's on our little shelf of
Oh my goodness.
jackalopes. Is
I should give you a bunch. I should give you some more. So that way you can like paint them different colors. Maybe have like an Easter jackalope if
paint
he's
them. Oh man, that's don't put that pressure on me. It's a gray jackalope with a gray cowboy on it. That's what I got.
mold
Uh,
injected. But yeah, so like I don't know. I guess part of it is joy and shenanigans. And originally the goal was to make $1 million. And trust me, I'm not even close. I'm not
yeah,
even. I didn't even. I don't think. I don't even know. Well, I guess. And I guess I could figure out how much, but I don't even know. It's not even close to $1 million. So I was like, ugh.
yeah,
And then 2020 happened, and that totally
right,
radically changed manufacturing. And I had a Kickstarter going at that point.
right.
They had just gone because have you done manufacturing in China? Do you know
Oh yeah,
about Golden Week?
we have
You know about
I completely literally sympathize with you on this
okay,
one because the same stuff
okay,
happened to something we were producing in
oh,
2020
okay,
into
okay.
2021. Yeah.
So and you know about Golden Week, how like China just shuts down for about a month because
Hmm.
people go to visit their family. So our project, my goal was always to get something in before Golden Week because it gets delayed exponentially longer if you get your project in after Golden Week because they
Hmm.
still have to catch up and it's like a big everybody goes to visit their family and whatnot. So I got my project in right before Golden Week and then everything shut down.
Yeah.
And I'm like, backers can be real mean sometimes. And so all I could say is like, look, here is the YouTube clip of the ship docked out in California. Like
Yeah.
I am in Louisville, Kentucky,
Hmm.
landlocked. I can't go out. I can't swim out there and get your miniatures.
Yeah.
So like,
I mean, it's a it's a it wasn't it was the it was the just the cost like the cost of shipping
oh my god,
increased so much in the
yes,
as the pandemic opened up. I mean, that was the thing that hit us, which it's like you're watching your profit margin disappear as the like, and now it's going to cost this much to ship it, and now it's going to cost this much to ship it, and there's like a tanker stuck in the Suez Canal and all that. That didn't help at all. But like it costs money to send these things over across the ocean, and yeah. So was that after that round of models? After you went through all of that, is that sort of the like I have to do something else, or is there?
yes,
Yeah.
yes. Well, there were a couple things. After the stress of the manufacturing, and it was just there was a whole feeling of just hopelessness, I
Mm,
guess, and a feeling of you just can't do anything about it, which is fine because I can learn to let go and whatever, like let go and just let things happen. But the customer service side, there's just only so much you can do, and
right.
then there are some people, a lot of people, I'd say the majority of the people get it, but it's always those negative comments that kind of just stick in your head, which is
Right.
just our human nature.
Right.
So like after that experience, I'm like, ugh, I don't want to do this anymore. And then the cost just radically went up, the shipping went up, everything was off budget, and it was a really miserable experience. Well, during the plague, I had a lot of time alone. Like a lot, I had my bubbles of friends because you weren't supposed to do that, but I did it anyway, and I was still kind of responsible about it. And I had a lot of alone time, and I realized I was like, I just really don't like living in the USA in general. Um, And watching the prices rise and not drinking liquor every day, I realized that I use liquor as a social lubricant to be around other humans because of. And I mean, how deep do you want to get here? Do you want to
I,
go this?
you're putting this out there. People are gonna watch it.
Maybe,
So like,
maybe it'll help someone. Maybe it'll help someone. So I realized by not drinking liquor every day and passing out drunk that I use liquor as a social lubricant for my anxiety to be around other people. And I also realized I'm not an extrovert. I always thought I was extroverted,
mm,
but I'm actually an introvert. Being around other people does make me tired. So, and I got tired of the USA. I got tired of the way, just the drama of our politics and whatnot. And once again, being politicized. So I thought, I need to get out of here. But once again, I have no skills. Like, where am I going to go? I'm a bartender, right?
right. You could bartend in Thailand or,
I mean, I'm sure they can find
Flip
better
or
people that speak Thai a lot better than I do that to sling that drink, right?
sure, sure.
So I thought, well, why don't I try and turn everything into a digital concept? So I contacted my sculptor and I said, hey, why don't we do a Patreon? We'll do a monthly thing because you see other Patreons, they're making 10 grand a month doing something like it could be D&D related miniatures, whatever. And I'm like, why don't we do a Patreon with miniatures? We can offer other things besides Christmas because trust me, I'm tired of doing Christmas.
Yeah,
Like I love to
you've done
do.
a bit of Christmas now.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple things I could still do that I still have in my brain that I would love to do that are based on the scarier pagan side of lore, but
Mm,
I don't want to run another Kickstarter on that level right now
yeah.
because you never know when we're going to go to war with China and then everything shuts down and then people are going to be like, "How come I don't have my miniatures?" Well, FAFO, buddy. You get what you vote for. You're not going to get your miniatures. Like I don't know what to do about that. So I went with
Mm,
digital. My next goal is go all digital.
yeah, yeah.
The sculptor, I almost got him on board. He said yes, and then he said no. He wanted me to pay for him. I'm like, I don't have the money to pay you for 3 years worth of sculpts or whatever, a hand or even 6 months. I don't have that kind of money because it's kind of expensive to hire an artist. And
Sure.
I pay artists whatever they want. My mother taught me to haggle. So if you take me to a flea market, I will haggle. I'll even
And
haggle at the grocery store if I'm feeling feisty,
I mean,
right?
that's a, flea market especially. That's a you can haggle at the flea market,
Yeah,
but
garage sale.
like,
Yeah, some people don't. So I'm like, well, I'll do it for you. I love it. Like I love that kind of stuff. But I do not haggle with artists. Whatever an artist
right.
wants, you get it because I went to school with artists. I'm not gonna try and haggle that. So after the sculpt idea didn't work, I decided, well, I'm still gonna make a Patreon, and I started doing Incarnate and making maps for D&D games, and then I started running D&D games. During the plague, I kind of tested the waters on that
Hmm.
and it was interesting. And then I stepped back and DM'd for free for a lot of people and ran a bunch of West marches and almost gave it up because that wore me out.
Yeah, I bet.
And then I thought, well, I'm tired because people are just kind of real like the Roll20 crowd, the free people. You never know what you're going to get, and some people it can be really disrespectful, not only to the DM but to other players. So,
Yeah.
um,
That's unfortunate. I mean, you don't need to, I don't know. People don't need to be that way. They're getting a free service. Like
but
that's
it's the internet. I mean, isn't that what you
right.
sign up for when you clock into the internet, right?
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. The
So
internet is going to internet.
yeah, I mean, I'm from the generation before the internet, so I can like compare and contrast. So I'm like before you had to actually know people. So
Yeah.
so then I thought, well, what can I do? My goal was to be out of the USA by this election cycle, and as you can see, that didn't happen. So my goal was, what can you do with whatever skill set you have, and make money to live somewhere else? And I don't just want to go south of the border; I want to leave the hemisphere. So, like, just get out of here, this section, because as you can see, we're still messing with Canada and Panama. Like, I saw that coming 4 years ago. I don't know. So,
Yeah, yeah, I got nothing to add. Like
I mean, the thing is, like I do whatever makes you happy. People do what you want. I'm just tired of being politicized. Like my
mm,
existence is a political drama, and I don't want any of that. I just want to be like the pale prairie bird that's brown on brown grass that you don't even notice. That just like
because you're an
exists.
introvert. You've discovered you're an introvert. You want,
Well, yeah, just like yeah. Like let me wear my drab colors and don't look at me. I can get attention if I want. Like I know how to present. Like I can wear a costume and whatever and get draw all the attention in the room, which is fine. I don't mind doing that. But as I get older, I don't have the energy. Like I'm just
mm,
tired. I want
Yeah.
naps. So I swift shifted to paid DM
Yeah.
as my plan for leaving the USA,
And,
and it
and
works. It works.
well, that's what I was about to say.
I have
Like,
a
how
full
is that
schedule. I have a,
going? Like,
I
what?
have a full schedule. I feel like a successful hairdresser. Like my books are full. Oh
That's,
my god, I don't know when I'm going to eat lunch. My books are full. Like
but I mean, that's
it's
good.
fabulous. It's fabulous. It's fabulous. My favorite is the word of mouth.
Mm,
When people, a third of my uh, players come from Roll20 just randomly. Well, not so much
hmm.
anymore. I've kind of weeded that out. So it's mostly start playing games and word of mouth. And word of mouth is my favorite because you're clearly doing something right if people are talking about you to their friends.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So do you have, you say your books are full, like,
Yeah,
you doing this like
I
five
just
nights a
picked up.
week? Like,
I will this week. Okay, so I was at 4 a week, and then I just thought, you know what, you got to pay down some taxes on your property, so pick up another pick up another day and pay those down. And so I had one of my players. It's like you manifest or whatever that manifest concept.
mm,
I've been putting
hmm.
out there. I'd really like to pick up a day. I also like having 2 days off in a row, which would is not going to happen by picking up another day. So I thought I'd make that sacrifice. And it turns out one of my players is DMing for his family game and doesn't like DMing. And he's in all my games except the weekend ones. So he posted in my Discord, and I was like, okay. I'm like, you can't really get, you really can't manifest anything better than a full table, right?
No. Right. Head here, take over my full table. Like
Yeah, yeah.
that's pretty great.
I was like looking at the Discord, and I'm like, because I look on my phone, and I'm like, at the Discord, I'm like, you really need to take care of this opportunity,
Yeah.
like, because someone else in my Discord mentioned that they would do it, and I'm like, man, you shouldn't be doing that on my Discord. First of all, I'm gonna kind of let it go this time, but uh,
It's my Discord.
well, no,
Um,
it's like poaching, it's like poaching
yeah,
clients. That's how I look at it.
sure.
Like I don't mind sending somebody a client. That's different, and I've done that. I've tried to push because Wayne was looking for a game a while back, and a DM for his game a while back, and I said no because I really wanted those 2 days off in a row. And then I tried to give him to a different DM I know, but I guess it didn't come to fruition for whatever reason. So I don't mind.
Yeah,
It's different when you say hey versus
sure. Uh,
someone
I'm
else going hey.
I'm going to ask you about Discord in just a second, but first I want to hear about like what it takes then to be a paid DM that's running 4 to 5 games a week. Like how much are you running the same adventures? Are you running a lot of your own content? You just like, oh, here's
Okay.
there's a lot of there's a lot of adventure. Like get this adventure book, I open it up, I read it. Now I can run all 5 of my games for the next 3 months out of this one book. I'm done. Like, or is it more like they went off on this town that nobody's ever heard about, and so I made up a bunch of stuff about the town, and now that they met somebody there at the town, I've got to invent like the backstory of that family and like or I get to invent the backstory of that family, and then they're going to go to the family estate, and now I'm
I like how
like
you
looking at
changed that.
pictures of Balmoral Castle to like map out a new place for the family estate. Like is that like which and I'm sure it's both and, but like which way is it for you for like the work
Okay.
that you're doing away
I've
from the
lo-
actual hours played?
I love this question. I love this question so much because
Yeah.
it's really there's a lot to that I've learned. I've
Yeah.
been doing the paid DM thing. I think maybe 2 years. I'd have to look like time. I'm really bad at time, so I really am. So I'd have to look back. But I think it's been going on 2 years now, maybe like a little more than that. Um, so when I started off small just to see like how much could I charge, what's worth my time, and all that
Hmm.
kind of stuff. And I thought I would run Wizards of the Coast modules strictly because I learned that people like the new shiny thing that they publish. Like whatever Wizards is marketing, that's what everybody wants to play. I learned that a little bit of that through trial and error, and then I also ran some things because I wanted to run them. It was a DM because hey, I'm involved with it too.
Yeah.
So why not run or some of those? So I did that for a couple campaigns, and then once those were over, I switched to I'm going to run the same module every week for 3 nights, and that is the best way to do this. It is the best way to do this.
Yeah.
I don't do homebrew very often. I will. Like when I wrote That's How the Cookie Crumbles, I play tested that in my D&D games. I have people that are, I ask them, I say, hey, do you guys mind? Do you want to play this? Because it's a paid game. You ask your
Hmm.
players, and
Yeah,
they're all like, yeah, 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 we'd love to play it. So I've run Jeffrey's Gallant Games, and That's How the Cookie Crumbles in my D&D groups before they even are finished. Right. That's about as much homebrew as I'll do because it's a lot of work. Homebrew is a lot of work.
sure.
Um, I did run a heist module, the keys from the Golden Vault.
Yeah.
Now, what I learned from that is that my client base, the players and my paid games, they don't want to problem solve that much.
Mm,
They don't want to plan. They don't want to be the leader. They don't want to be the manager. And here's why: because they just got off of work doing that.
yeah. Yeah. I can see
I
that.
have a lot of clients that are the boss or upper management, or
Hmm.
they own their business, or they're just the person in charge at work. And so when they come to a game that I'm hosting, they really do want that railroad, which is such a dirty word. Like in YouTube
Well,
universe, it's such a dirty word. But
hmm.
I've tried. I've done open ended, and it's just not, it's like people just don't like it. They
Yeah.
really want the point A to point B to point C. And I've asked because when I ran keys from the Golden Vault, it was a nightmare. I loved the module. I thought it was
Yeah.
great, but
I-
running it with the players, it was one of the hardest modules I've ever run.
Well, because they're so
I
open-ended,
threw in the towel.
like they're
I
they're
threw in the towel. I threw
they're very
actually.
loose.
I'm sorry. What?
They're loose. They're loose. They don't tell
They
you.
are.
They're like,
They are.
here's the situation. You're gonna solve it however you want to solve it. Um, you
Yes,
know.
which is
It,
what I think a lot of YouTube D&D people think they want to run,
hmm.
but I mean it really does matter what your table is, right?
Well, yeah, it's the table, I think, more than
It's
anything,
the table.
like if you're, I mean, I totally understand what you're saying about like, yeah, if I've had to like, yeah, if you're like a professional cat herder and you get off of 8 hours of that, and then you're like, okay, now just point me in the direction of the goblins, I will roll my D20, and like that's a that's a very different sort of table than like, I only play once a month and I want to like I want to talk to all the NPCs and figure out the best strategy because we're only doing this once a month, and I don't know, it's a very different
It is. It is.
table, but
It is.
like what
Well,
a
the thing
cool
is, like, well, the thing is, I want to just defend railroads. Like,
sure.
there are people, because there's a lot of people that hate on the railroads, but there are folks out there they just want to get on that they just want to get on the amusement park ride. I don't
Hmm.
know what else that can like remember the D&D cartoon they got on that amusement park ride? That's what sometimes I feel like I am that mouth that they go into, which is from the mouth from the Tomb of Annihilation, I think, if I remember correctly. Like they just want to get on that car and go for a fun ride,
Right.
and I'm very interactive with my players, so they write a lot of the story as well. I've some aphantasia, so I don't really necessarily see things in my head. If it's something I create, sometimes I see it, but like I don't. You could describe a rose to me, and it'll be kind of hard for me to see that. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Which is weird as a creative. It's really weird. I didn't even know that was like a thing until a couple of years ago.
a rose is a rose is a
No,
rose is
no,
a
like
rose.
like like aphantasia. Well, I
Yeah.
know Gertrude Stein. Gertrude Stein. Yes, yes, a
Yeah,
rose
yeah.
is a
I'm
rose.
gonna
Yeah, yeah.
that's
But I didn't even know aphantasia
I,
was a thing. Like, you know how like I don't know if you've ever been around a bunch of like hippie types. Like, let's go on a guided meditation. Those never worked, and I never understood
mm,
why. Everyone else seemed to really be into it in the room, and I'm like this,
yeah.
like, and then
Well,
I learned aphantasia happens, and I'm like,
yeah.
which is weird because like as a creative, I will see something in my head,
Hmm.
and I have to make it because it drives me nuts. It's like
Mm,
get out of my head, get out of my head, get out of my head. It's like always there, so you make it and it leaves, right?
interesting.
And but how does that happen? Like you can't go on a guided meditation, but then something drops in your head and drives you nuts until you get rid of it. Like I don't know, it doesn't make sense to me, but whatever. Maybe that's why I drank a little.
Uh, who could say? Who could say?
Right.
Well, I I don't think I have any more questions. I think you've really explained yourself as like what you how you how you've ended up in the place that you've ended up. Um, I do have one more question that I thought
Okay.
maybe because
You can
like
ask anything you want. Don't
yeah,
hold back. Ask anything
like
you want.
I think you've already answered it, but like my question is
Okay.
like what does success look like for you? Because there's all kinds of ways to be like
God.
involved in the industry, the hobby industry, either as a producer or as a because you're working in the industry. So you're not just
I guess.
I don't want to say just a player, but like there are people because the players are needed for the hobby too, but like it is there's all kinds of ways to be behind the GM screen, I guess is another way to say it. So like small scale, big scale, timeline. What does success look like for you right now?
Wow. See, I don't know. I don't really I guess I don't know if I think that way. I don't know if I think that way. Is that
Okay,
is that
that's fair.
is that kind of bizarre?
Well, yeah, but
Like
I,
success to me or to
mhm.
success to like I
But if
don't
you're
know.
accomplishing your
I guess
goals,
yeah, I
that
guess that would be it. Just
right.
accomplishing a goal would be the success.
You didn't make $1 million Kickstarter, but like you've done this other thing
That
you're
was
enjoying. So like
yeah,
it's
I
it's
mean, well, I guess maybe it's hard to define success because I don't think of it as successful because my
mm,
original goal wasn't successful. So maybe it's a failed project, but it's not a failed project. Like at the same time,
right.
because it I didn't get what I was going after. So yes, you failed in that. But what I was going after was kind of ridiculous, right?
Well, and
Because I
it's
didn't
the
know. I didn't know at the time. I just saw
right.
like dollars or whatever. I'm like, oh, it's the lottery. No, it's
Yeah,
not.
you said that
No,
earlier, and it's like
no, it's
it.
not. No, it's not.
I mean,
Don't fall for it.
yeah, that is as a Kickstarter producer, that is the wrong way to think of Kickstarter for sure.
Well, trust me, after the first one, I realized the error of my
Yeah,
ways.
yeah,
This was having never like this is me just hearing about like the first time I heard about Kickstarter
right.
because that's how I heard about it from Reaper. I bought one of their like I think you got a buttload like a whole box of miniatures for $100 or something.
I mean, sounds
And
great if you like
yeah,
miniatures.
I mean, did I paint any of them? I think I painted two.
Uh,
Sounds great.
yeah. Uh, all right, Joe. We've talked for a little while. We've talked about all the questions.
Okay.
So the last thing is where can people find your
Oh wow.
stuff? Like
Okay.
if they want to buy the packages, the Christmas packages that look like a tree ant, or the cowboy riding a jackalope, there's places to buy that. If they want to hire you for your services, maybe you've got no availability now, but if they want to get
Okay.
on the waiting list, you said you
Okay.
had a Discord. Like, where are all the things? Like,
Okay. Uh, I'm on Instagram, so you could actually the best you could just Google because this is something I real you want to talk about success, and
yeah,
this is something I had no idea would be a thing, but I have successfully learned how to get your product on Google through search engine optimization,
yeah, SEO. You
SEO.
did it.
So there you go. You want to talk about because I actually because you like that success question that's so interesting to me because like I mean, we talked about my background where if you make one mistake, two mistakes, you're at a 90. So like
Yeah,
I never really thought of myself in that category. Does that make sense? Like I'm
yeah,
just chugging along, drinking and serving drinks, right? That's my life. So I think maybe the success, okay, the success was learning how to do stuff or things that I've never like I never was trained to do. Like I didn't know how
mm,
to lead a team on making miniatures, right? Or manufacture stuff.
yeah,
So I guess the success would be learning those skills to accomplish a task.
yeah.
Right? I guess
I,
that's the success.
well, and I think,
And
I mean,
making people giggle.
sure, that's worth something for sure. That's worth something for sure because there's a this world, Joe. I don't have to tell you about it.
No, no, we're living in it.
Yeah.
We are living in it. Well, what do you
Uh,
think? Like, how would you define success? I think that's kind of rough.
it is, and I think uh, for me, I think success looks like sort of part of the reason why Wet Ink has tried to grow into more and more games and stuff like that is that this. this is the job, right? I mean, we've chosen that this is the job. And so if I can't make if my company, obviously you have to make the sales and the convention stuff and the Kickstarters, a lot of that money goes into some of it's marketing, some of it is like the production. Um, like obviously Kickstarter, like almost all of that money goes into the actual making of the products and getting them landed to into retail, right? I mean, that's just you don't we have a $50,000 Kickstarter for the last time we did a Kickstarter, and like that money is to print 1,700 copies of the book plus another 1,700 to go into retail, and like that it's not like that's not the money that we're going to be spending on our food for like the next, year. So to make enough continuously, to have enough things that are selling at all times, that then like there's a stream of money that's coming back to me that I can, put, like it's
Gotta pay that.
we
Gotta
just
pay
had a
that.
lot of
Gotta pay
we
that light bill I see right there behind you.
yeah, there's lights on. So
Gotta
like
pay the light bill. Yeah. Yeah.
success. Like the lights are on, right? I am at success. Um, but there's all kinds of levels of that too, like or whatever, like but I think that's where I'm at for it, right? And it's sort of like as much industry as much product as Wet Ink has been able to produce, and as much like goodwill that we've got in the industry and stuff like that. Like I am sort of in like a I don't know, like a rat in a hole sort of mentality about it, where like if I don't have what I need to eat, I haven't succeeded yet, um, which it's been enough. It's been enough, like doing it so far. So, but yeah, it's hard to make enough in an entertainment industry, like, the slice, the all of entertainment is a small part of the economy, and then entertainment is mostly not games, and then most of games aren't role-playing games, and then most of role-playing games aren't indie role-playing games. So it's
Right.
you're only dealing with a very small slice
Very
of like,
small. Very small.
and I like to think that like myself and other companies that I consider peer companies, like ninth level games and Nerdburger games and Nerdy City and like all these other companies, that we're not in competition with each other because we're all doing something slightly different, and hopefully we're making the pie bigger by offering slightly different things. And but I don't know, maybe we are we're literally eating each other's lunch sometimes. So
Well, I think things are radically changing in the D&D hemisphere. Like people, the younger kids, and by kids I mean like 30 and below. Like I don't mean because I'm the elder now. I'm an
right,
elder.
right. You
I'm the young elder, but I'm still in the elder category. So
sure,
I'm gonna own that. So
sure.
so the younger role players, they're kind of done with D&D.
Yeah.
So it's a lifestyle brand now, is what it is,
Hmm.
and I treat it as such. So
Right.
I try and represent the brand when I dungeon master, and I try and bring forth a lot of lore. I lore dump whenever, like in good spots,
Yeah.
appropriate enough, because that's the experience that people want. So,
Well, yeah.
but
I mean, I think that
I,
lifestyle, like you're saying, is like, oh, we're going to play the newest module. Here it comes out, and like I've read it, and we're going to play it, and I'm playing it 3 times this week, and once on Saturday. Like it's
yep,
or
and I'm playing with my D&D dice, and I'm wearing my D&D Converse, and I have my D&D T-shirt on, and
yeah,
my licensed Wizard of the Coast miniature that our Hero Forge or whatever. Like it's a brand, and
yeah,
so I offer it like with my D&D services. It's just like you offer a slice of that. Does that make sense?
yeah. And
It's kind
that's
of
and
I mean
that's
it's kind of
that's like the
easy.
feature, like kind of like the railroad thing that you were talking about. Like that's the feature. Like if you want this, here it is. From every layer is D&D, and
Yep.
if that's what you're looking for,
Yep.
I, that's what's in this cake. Let me cut you a
I mean,
piece.
because like the way I look at it, like I'm a DM, and everyone's like, "Oh, you're the old almighty DM," blah 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 blah. I'm like, yes, but no. Like, yes, but
Right.
no. I am here to facilitate a group good time. If you
Mm.
think of it like it's a mutual hallucination with a bunch of individuals, and there are no drugs,
I mean,
right?
that's pretty cool. That's pretty awesome.
That's another way to look at people are like role playing games are storytelling, yes, but there's also so many other layers that come down with through that.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. It's fascinating. So okay,
Yeah.
so I'm sorry. We kind of got we always get
We went
sidetracked.
back to the
I always,
interview, but
I always
so
jump around.
tell us where
Okay,
you can find you.
all right.
Where can
Well,
people find your stuff?
I try and not be found, but I
Well,
mean,
that's
you,
fine too.
you
That's
do
fine
have to
too.
like let yourself be out there. So you can find me if you just Google Warren Christmas Village. I've done some good job, a good job. I've been successful in getting
Hmm.
that search engine optimized. I have a YouTube channel that kind of is like a dead fish in water. Um, Called what is it called now? The Train Wizard, I think. The Train Wizard. I think that's what it is. Uh, yeah,
I've watched
think
you
I was
cut up
I
some
think I was
foam core
shadow
and
banned.
make dungeon floors out of it, you know.
Yeah, or well, I tried. I think I got shadow banned because I used bad words. So like I never had any growth, and then it
Mm.
turns out the only things that people really want to watch me do, and I don't understand this at all. I still can't grasp this, but they want me to go to Dollar Tree and just be a real shady queen about stuff and make up stories.
I mean,
That's my YouTube calling. Nobody
that
cares about dungeon master tips. No one cares how well I can make like a crumbled wall. They want me to go be a shady queen at the Dollar Tree and talk about shit.
well, hey, that's like,
Whew,
give the people what they want.
I guess, but the thing is, I don't understand what they want. Like, I know the rough thing, like I know the big picture that they want. Like, go to Dollar Tree and just talk about stuff. But I don't know what stuff I say cracks me up all the time, but it doesn't necessarily make like other people don't necessarily laugh about it. Sometimes I get these cold stares. So I don't know what it is that hit. Like I don't know what hits the mark and what doesn't hit the mark. Just it's all just throw it at the wall and wait to see what
I
the comments are.
I mean, that's
I guess if it works, it
it
works.
works. If it works, it works.
But once again, that was not why I stepped into YouTube. That is
Sure.
not. I stepped into YouTube to promote my miniatures. That was the only
Right.
reason. And I hardly ever promote them on YouTube. So whatever. I don't know. I don't know. And then dungeon mastering, I guess, would be start playing games would be the
Yeah.
best way to find me. I think my name on there is Joe Dub. It might be like Joe Dub 70 or something or Joe Dub something or other. I think it's just Joe Dub. Joedub. My last name is Wright with a W. So that's how I got the dub. Like George W. Bush. George
Yeah.
W.
Joe Dub. Like,
DUB. Or like the music.
right, but it's like written DUB, but it's like referencing your initial. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Drum and
that was
bass.
you're uh all right. So again, I want to thank you for being on my show. Thank you for
Sure.
your time today. Thank you
Thanks. It was
for
fun.
being real honest for the camera,
Well,
and hopefully people enjoy this content. Can
I don't
and
know. I don't know. Like I've seen some of your other content. And it's like, oh, let's design a game, and then you get this nut job on your show. I'm like, well, I don't really know what to talk. And then you're asking, you're like, well, here are some of the preliminary questions. I'm like, well, I'll just take a big sigh, and I'm like, I'll just tell you what the story is. It was just chaos makes
Yeah,
things.
I
I
mean, I
guess the
think
answer is chaos makes stuff.
sure. It, it does. It does. Stuff comes out of chaos. I think, look, if all of my interviews were with staid, like stoic people, then it would be boring. So like I thought it would be good to talk to you, and I have enjoyed this conversation. So I think that's success for me today is like talking to you and
Yay, success.
having a good time doing it. So
Yay.
once again, thank you. And if you enjoyed hearing from Joe, check out the links and it'll be in the comments to or the description of the video to like all the places that Joe mentioned. And like I don't
Yeah,
know, do some
please.
chaos. Do
Yeah.
have some chaos.
Well,
Or or
Chris,
or a nice everything D&D cake. Make one of those.
or
Whatever
just take a
whatever
nap,
floats you.
or just end the chaos and take a nap for 20 minutes to 3 hours with your cat. That's the best way to cat herd. Wet
There you
food
go.
and a nap.
Wet food and a nap. All right. That'll be
All right, man.
that's a strategy.
Well,
Uh
it was fun. It was fun chit chatting. Anytime you want to, I don't know, chit chat, let me know. Or if you want to jump in the D&D game.
yeah, I'll let you know. I'll let you know. I don't
Do you play D&D? Do you actually
I
play D&D at all?
I have been known to. It is not my primary jam, but I
I
have been
hear
known to.
I've been in the South long enough to know what that means. That was like a bless your heart. That was like the most polite bless your heart ever.
It was a little bless your heart. I'll tell you about it in just a second. We're going to wrap this call up. Thank you so much for listening, watching this chaos unfold. For the viewers, in the comments, put down, what's some Christmas lore that you want to see turned into miniatures. Put that in the comments. We'll or anything. Yeah,
Just any miniature. Like, what miniature would you like to see represented?
there you
Oh
go.
wait, you know what? I forgot to mention my mini factory. I'm
My,
selling. I'm selling. I forgot to mention that. So this year, I'm to circle back to my going digital
uh-huh.
plan to get out of Dodge. Uh, I decided to sell our miniatures digitally, and I did a Kickstarter, and that was like, oh, because I needed cash. This is during the pandemic. I was like, I need some money, so I did a Kickstarter and sold those. And then this year, I thought I would sell them on my mini factory. So you can download our minis. Um, I've also got a couple published adventures on Drive Through RPG. Warren, if you just Google Warren Christmas Village, all that stuff will pop up.
Yeah.
That's the easiest way. And then
Yeah,
there's let's see,
make
Drive
a
Through RPG, HIO. I also have the adventures on HIO. I try and get as many funnels out there as possible.
yeah, you and then you got to get on Linktree so that they can all be in one place so that then
What
all the
is that?
funnels point to each other. We'll talk about it in just a second. I'm
Is
gonna
that
wrap
like
this
a
call up. Thank you so much for
video
listening.
not sponsored
We're
by Blinktree? Not
Yeah,
sponsored
yeah.
by Blinktree.
No, not at all. Joe, talk to you later.
Thank you.